Lakshminarayana to come forward to collect the award. Over to Mr. Sharma and Mr. Garrett Roberts to do the honors. Yeah, we have Mr. Stephen Tims here, East Stand MP and former Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Lakshminarayana. I would request you to say a couple of words.
Chairman and members of the UK South Indian Chamber of Commerce, Honorable Members of Parliament, other distinguished invitees, guests, delegates, and media friends, I would like to thank you for conferring this honor to me in recognition of my services to the tourism sector. I would like to give a brief introduction about my track record in the tourism sector. Actually, I am consultant for the government of Andhra Pradesh for the tourism development of tourism project for the last 10 years. So, in fact, in recognition of my track record in tourism sector, our Honorable Minister Garu Dr. Chiranjeevi Garu, he also honored me by nominating me on the board of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Sharmaji, Chiranjeevi Garu is listening to our representation regarding the film tourism. And Prithvirajji, we are actually doing a lot for the film tourism in Andhra Pradesh, which I would like to present in my presentation here. And thank you very much, one and all.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshminarayana. The British South India Chamber of Commerce would like to honor Ambika Darbar Batti with the Consumer Product of the Year for developing the herbal incense sticks. Incense sticks are used in India for religious ceremonies and for creating a spiritual atmosphere. Ambika Darbar is the only Darbar incense manufacturer in India. Ambika Darbar Batti is manufactured using natural ingredients and over 100 different natural herbs, is able to achieve continuous growth in the quality of the product and the connection that's established with customers through its values in the last 65 years. It's a household name in South India. I request the chairman of Ambika Group of Companies, Mr. Ambika Krishna, to collect the award on behalf of the company. Mr. Ambika Krishna also happens to be one of the top businessmen from AP. He's a politician, he's a producer, he's all in one. Over to Mr. Sharma, Garrett Roberts, and Mr. Stephen Tims to do the honor. Thank you, Mr. Krishna. I would request Mr. Krishna to speak a couple of words.
ముందుగా తెలుగులో అందరికీ నమస్కారం. This is my own language from Andhra Pradesh. Telugu is the largest speaking people in India, particularly in Andhra Pradesh. Well, I am very happy to have organize this function. Our MD sir and other dignitaries of the dais and in front of you, all of you, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in the beautiful program here. Agarbatti incense sticks is a largest industry in India. and mostly about 2,000 crores of agarbatti industry is running in India. Basically, incense sticks are using for praying of Indian Hindu culture and Buddhism also using agarbattis more. And particularly agarbatti is Ambika Darbar Batti is an old famous name. Particularly South India, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Orissa, Bengal, all these states using our agarbatti, Ambika Darbar Batti. It is a turnover of 150 crores a year. And lot of devotees and lot of consumers. It became a household name. Bhagavantuniki, Bhaktuniki, Anasandhanamainadi, Ambika Darbar Batti is a caption of our product, which is a link between God and devotee. Use Ambika Darbar Batti, the God will come to you. That is our caption. And along with the agarbatti industry, we have been went to other areas also, like water industry. We are having a hotels in Chennai and Visakhapatnam. And of course, I am a producer also. I have been produced in Telugu. Lot of movies, about 10 movies I have been produced. Our artist, one of the artists, maybe in Malayalam, but we are in the same industry. Mr. Puduraj also, I am very happy to have today with me. And particularly, as he said, the film industry is a very big industry. And lot of chances are that nowadays in the industry, film industry, big companies like Reliance, other companies also join together the producers and producing the movies now. Back to our agarbatti industry. Along with the agarbatti industry, we have been in the power industry also, that is wind power in Tamil Nadu and various places also. And we are starting a big project about 50 megawatt in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a best wind energy place when compared to India, so that's why we have been there. And along with the agarbatti industry, we have been in several construction areas also we are having. So I am very happy to such a great place, London, British, London Parliament area. We are taking the award in the life achievement, and it will never forget in my life. It is a memorable day in my diary. And once again I am telling you, it is a memorable day for our agarbatti industry. It is old, 66 years old company. And I thank you once again very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna. The British South India Chamber of Commerce would like to honor Asset Homes Private Limited from Kerala with the Award for Excellence in Real Estate. Asset Homes has 26 completed projects and 16 ongoing projects in Kerala to its credit. It has bagged prestigious awards like the International Property Awards in association with Bloomberg Television 2011, CNBC Awards, CNBC Awards, Crystal Crudite Real Estate Awards 2010 for India's Most Innovative Project, Realty Excellence Award 2011 for India's Young Achiever of the Year, Vocational Excellence Award 2009-2010. Asset Homes is the first builder to complete a CRISIL 7 rated project in Kerala, award to Asset Signature to Vandram, beside a CRISIL 6-star rating for Asset Silvers 1 Alua. I would request Mr. Anil Kumar Kerala Verma and Mr. Sunil Kumar Pillai to come forward to collect their award. Over to Mr. Sharma, Mr. Garrett and Mr. Stephen to do the honors. I also request Mr. Puduraj to join the award. Thank you. I would request Asset Homes, either Mr. Sunil Kumar or Mr. Verma to speak a couple of words.
Good afternoon, friends.
It's indeed a proud moment for all of us at Asset Homes to receive the prestigious award at this prestigious hall. As a young starter, for the last 7 years we have completed more than 26 projects, and currently some 22 projects are undergoing construction in Kerala. And we are proud to say that we are the first builder in India to achieve a CRISIL 7-star rating for a completed project. And these type of honors and recognitions increases our responsibility, we know that, and we will serve the community in a much better way in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. British South India Chamber of Commerce would like to honor Professor C.M.K. Reddy with the Lifetime Achievement Award. Professor Reddy is the recipient of Dr. B.C. Roy National Award as the eminent medical teacher from the President of India in 2000. Professor Reddy carried out the first successful kidney transplantation in Tamil Nadu Government Hospitals in 1986, which earned him the recognition from then Chief Minister MGR. Since the year 2004, he has been running free clinics on every Thursday, which has benefited 50,000 poor patients till date. I request Professor Reddy to come forward to collect the award. Over to Mr. Sharma, Kurian defendant and Director of the honors.
But we are greatly honored, and India is one of the British Commonwealth countries. So more than Commonwealth, we want to have common health, because there's a lot of tourism between India and Britain, and India now is one of the favorite destinations for medical tourism. A lot of high-tech hospitals, and the doctors. There is no doctor in the world, hospital in the world without Indian doctors. So the quality and the dedication of the Indian doctors is well known all over the world. That has brought a lot of credit to the Indian doctors and the tourism influx into India. So I will give my presentation a little later. Once again, I am very grateful to you, sir. Thank you very much.
British South India Chamber of Commerce would like to honor Mr. Satish P. Chandra with the Businessman of the Year award. Mr. Chandra is the managing director for a number of successful companies, including Mysore Horseway Private Limited, Mysore International Private Limited, Global Tech Park Private Limited, Swiss Mile India Dental Clinic Private Limited, and other companies. He has been a vendor to the United Nations Children's Fund, Oxfam International UK, and is a preferred vendor to India's largest software company, TCS Limited, for constructing their IT parks. I request Mr. Chandra to come forward to collect the honors. And I would request Mr. Chandra's wife to join him in the stage.
Thank you very much, and I would thank the British South India Chamber of Commerce for honoring me in this prestigious building. I come from Mysore, and I'm a carpenter. I was a carpenter, right from 1932, ever since my grandfather started manufacturing housewares, and we were exporting the entire products, including in England, where we used to sell them to Marks and Spencer's, IKEA, Argos, Bloomingdale's. 2000, I diversified myself into information technology, totally from carpentry to this. And further, I diversified myself into aerospace. And I'm proud to say that my company has, designed the wiring for the Airbus 380. And I have an IT campus wherein 16,000 people are working, which is being used by Tata Consulting Services. And also I'm into healthcare. So we have the best dental practices in Switzerland, UK. I'm very happy to say that we have a great practice in London. and also in Moscow and India. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra. The British South India Chamber of Commerce would like to honor a property portal from South India, Sichamu, as an innovative and user-friendly portal in India. Sichamu has created a splash in the Indian property market and is becoming the leading portal for people to buy property in India, especially in South India. I would request the company scheme led by Nodi to come forward and collect the certificate.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Chief Guest, ladies and gentlemen, and my friends. It is a great honor for me and my Sishamu for receiving this award. I remember the day we started in 2011 at Info Park, Kerala, with 4 employees, and now today we have 22 permanent employees and over 30 plus freelancers working for us across India. As you all know, the success of an online portal relies on the amount of traffic it generates. At the time we started, we had 100, 150 visitors every day, and today we have crossed 12,000 unique visitors in India, and recently NDTV have been recognized as the best property portal in India. I thank South Indian British Chamber of Commerce for recognizing Sishamu.com, and it is really a great honor for us. And once again, thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much for my team, Pradeep Rahul and Murthy Nara and Koshi Thomas. Without them, we would not have been receiving this award. Once again, thank you very much for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a very important announcement to make, which I've been waiting for the last 1 month. I have a pleasant task to perform of welcoming Ms. Kamala Chandrasekhar on board of British South India Chamber of Commerce as a new director. She has earlier been the head of financial, professional and business services, South Asia, Middle East and Africa, and PVP at the UK Trade and Investment. She is keen to contribute her vast experience in enhancing trade and investment in UK and South India. I request Mr. Chandrasekhar to come on the stage and speak a couple of words.
Good morning, all. I'm very honored to be here, and I'm really have to say that I've been enjoying my work with UK South India Business India Chamber of Commerce for the last 2 years. We have achieved. We started a very humble start, but we are making a good progress, and we hope to do more with all your support. Please contact us whenever you require anything, and we'll be very happy to share our experience with you, as well as take your advice as well, so that we can continue to grow. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing our endeavor to explore opportunities in South India, we will now have Mr. Lakshmi Narayana, Chief Consultant of Andhra Pradesh Product Facilities and Consultancy Services Limited, who will present about the business opportunities in Andhra Pradesh. The speakers are given around 25 minutes to speak and 5 minutes for question and answer. I request the speakers to strictly adhere to the time schedule.
Ladies and gentlemen, my colleague Stephen Thames, who is a very senior member of Parliament and former minister as well, now in the shadow ministry, has to leave because there's many other things happening in the Parliament. He has to lead it. I would like to ask Stephen to say a few words before he leaves. Stephen Thames.
Brenda, I'm delighted to be here. Very pleased to see so many people here once again. Since I last attended one of these meetings under Brenda's chairmanship, we've had the results of the census, and it shows in my constituency, East Ham in East London. I was interested to see the ethnic breakdown of my constituency. It turns out the largest group of residents in our area are people who are described quite a consensus of white British, which I suppose is not very surprising, but actually they only comprise about 16% of the population. The next largest group is those of Indian origin. So a very large share of my constituents have their roots in India, and most of them, of course, in South India. So I'm delighted to be here. And just a few weeks ago, we hosted a visit in East Ham by the British Consul General in Chennai, Mike Lithobianakis, who I'm sure many of you will know. And I enjoyed showing him around East Ham. I enjoyed showing him the Chennai Dosa restaurant in my constituency, and lots of other restaurant names and shop names referring to Chennai and other places in southern India as well. And what really came, Philip was present, and there was a large number of businesses run by people with their roots in South India. And what struck me about that visit was, firstly, what a huge potential contribution to our economy in my part of London, but actually in the UK as a whole, can be made and is being made today by businesses whose proprietors, whose origins are in southern India, and how important it is that we make the most of the potential of the connections which have been referred to already between this country and India. India, growing very fast, increasingly an economic superpower. In the UK, we're struggling to get growth into our economy, and from our point of view, I hope from the point of view of southern India as well, the connections between us hold out a great deal of promise. And what I think is particularly important is that young people whose roots are in South India, but whose home is in London, are able, as they start to get into work, perhaps start to set up businesses for themselves and to do well, are able to take advantage of their familiarity with how everything works in the UK, because they've grown up here, plus their roots in South India, where the opportunities are so enormous, make the most of those connections, and that those will enable them to do well and to help us in Britain to do well, to help businesses in South India to do well also. I think those connections are crucially important, so I very much welcome the work of the UK South India Chamber of Commerce, which I think is very important in making the most of that potential for both of our countries. Thank you very much indeed.
Just hand it over to Mr. Lakshminarayan.
Good afternoon, all the invitees and invites and delegates of the South Indian Chamber of Commerce. Actually, I am asked to give a presentation on investment opportunities in Andhra Pradesh. Based on my track record in tourism sector, and as rightly highlighted by our chairperson today, Virendra Sharma ji, that tourism is also one of the important factor in the bilateral relationships. Again, rightly informed by Professor Reddy Garu of Apollo Healthcare, especially related to the film tourism, medical tourism and all these aspects. My presentation is oriented more towards tourism investment opportunities. However, I will carry on further with the general presentation also. We have basically three policies from Government of Andhra Pradesh for the promotion of industries, infrastructure, tourism and IT. Industrial Investment Promotion Policy of 2010 to 2015. The main features are basically to guide and assist entrepreneurs in setting up industries, enable entrepreneurs to get the approvals and clearances from various departments and agencies, registration of small industries, tiny industries, small scale services, sanction incentives to the industries that are eligible, create a transparent, congenial, hassle-free, business-friendly environment for accelerated growth of the industrial sector in the state, provide marketing assistance to the local industries, and rehabilitate sick and small units. Primarily, the most potential areas right now are power sector, especially renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power and things like that. And then there is a lot of potential available for the water desalination, seawater desalination projects, wastewater recycling projects, and municipal waste management projects. So this will be of great interest, especially to the UK investors. So there is ample potential. We can actually guide you in this regard. Then our IT and communications policy, which is in fact, within the 10 years of span, we have taken phenomenal growth in the IT sector because of this investor-friendly policy. Basically, again, to conceptualize and initiate various e-governance projects, stipulate standards for the compliance, promote investments in IT sector, facilitate growth of IT-enabled services through proactive measures, utilize IT as a means of generating employment. So our motto of IT policy is invent, innovate, invest in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is the home for vibrant IT industry in India, a delightful destination process. Now, tourism sector. This is our tourism policy 2010. The key trends of the policy is basically we call it Aam Aadmi policy, tourism for common man. So it's not basically, well-off people that they are only, they can avail the tourism facility. Even common people from all over the world, they can come to India to enjoy the tourism sector. And then other initiatives are homestay and bed and breakfast schemes, recognition of private operators, promotion of market offers, promotion of customized tours, MICE tourism, which is picking up very well, especially Hyderabad, Cochin, Chennai, all these states. They have massive convention centers which can actually host global convention events. And another important tourism is film tourism. We have a very world-famous Ramoji Film City in Iran, which is the best film tourism project ever happened to India. Heli tourism, development of HR through capacity building, safe and responsible honorable tourism, and rural tourism. We have ample scope in our state for various kinds of tourism. Quickly I'll go through it. Eco-tourism, rural tourism, pilgrim tourism, wellness tourism, adventure tourism, beach tourism, river tourism, eco-theme parks, water sports complexes, wayside amenities, convention facilities. We have provision for all these kinds of tourism. Family entertainment centers, family amusement parks, sports and recreation centers, health spas and health clubs, craft bazaars. We have famous Kalavedikas, Shilpa Kalavedikas in Hyderabad, multiplexes and mega shopping malls which are picking up recently. And other general sectors are star hotels, business class hotels, heritage hotels. We have beautiful heritage properties all over the state. Long stay accommodations. The places like Hyderabad where IT sector is flourishing, Visakhapatnam, Tirupati, which is a religious destination. There is a lot of potential for long staying accommodations. Guest houses, paying guest accommodations, motels, dormitories, resorts, forest lodges. We have beautiful forests all over the state. Restaurants, eateries, food courts and eat streets. We have some of the landmark eat streets in our Hyderabad. If you visited Hyderabad, you might have heard about the Eat Street on the Necklace Road, Hyderabad. Basically, we are promoting all these tourism projects with a public-private partnership mode from the government of Andhra Pradesh side. We have an investor-friendly tourism policy which is facilitating PPP projects. Basically, mainly to develop, to join hands for the developing world-class projects, combining infrastructure of government and managerial strength of private sector, helping the investors for a better viability of the project. We offer land on very concessional basis, on long lease basis. Then for the sustaining long gestation projects, encouraging innovative ideas of the entrepreneurs, private entrepreneurs, they have more innovative ideas. Ensuring better customer care, creating world-class projects with partnering specialists in the field all over the world. We have some of the landmark projects. I'll just quickly go through it. We have our famous Cyber Towers, High-Tech Exhibition Center, HACC Convention Center. In fact, our GMR, famous GMR Airport is also, Hyderabad Airport is also a PPP project. We have a famous IMAX theatre at Hyderabad. Some of our hotels like Novotel and Vespalla and things like that. These are all, again, some of the landmark projects in Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, and various other places, Eat Streets, Snow World, Jalavihar, 5-star hotels. Some more projects located all over the state. Some more major developments which are under implementation, under pipeline. 5-star hotels, urban entertainment centers, health spas, shopping malls and multiplexes. Then we have some more mixed-use residential townships in the PPP mode. And then residential complexes, urban entertainment centers and eco-theme parks. From Government of India side, we have various subsidies and incentives for the tourism sector. One of the very good policy, scheme is large revenue generating projects, which will give almost 50% of the equity or 25% of the project cost as a subsidy from the Government of India side. And then for promoting the budget hotels, we have subsidy schemes from 1-star to 3-star, varying from 50 lakhs to 1-star, 75 lakhs to 2-star and 100 lakhs to 3-star. These are some of the schemes available. These are the various models of PPP projects which we implement depending upon the model of the project. Build and or transfer, build, lease and transfer, build, operate and transfer, build, own and operate, build, own, operate and transfer, build, transfer and operate, contract, add and operate, develop, operate and transfer, rehabilitate, operate and transfer. This is for the heritage projects, renovation of heritage projects. We have primarily 3 schemes to award the projects. One is nomination by negotiations. Second one we call it as Swiss challenge method, and the third one is competitive bidding. We award projects on 3 criteria. Competitive bidding is basically, we call expression of interest, we process the request for a proposal, we'll evaluate the proposals and then we award the projects like any other PPP projects in the world. Next one is, this is the process we follow in the awarding the projects. In the technical qualification, we see their experience, expertise. In the business proposal, we see evaluate their proposals and then their managerial and technical strengths. And the normal, in the normal course, these are our revenue models. There is a 1% of the project cost as project development fees we collect from the developer. Lease amount is, this is a concessional lease amount. 5% of the basic market value of the land we charge as lease amount from the developers. And then there is a revenue sharing of 3% to the government for actually facilitating the project monitoring and services. We have a unique scheme known as the Swiss challenge method. Suppose if it is a first of its kind project in Andhra Pradesh, the original project proponent, they can submit the proposal. We will evaluate the proposal and then we will recognize that project as a Swiss challenge under Swiss challenge method. So once it is recognized on Swiss challenge method, you will have the first right of refusal. It's a limited competitive bidding based on your parameters, eligibility criteria, and your project size. The bidding will be called, and you will be given first right of refusal for the award of the project. In case if you are not willing to match the avail the first right of refusal, your costs for the development of project report and all, will be reimbursed. This is a very good scheme if you are coming out with a unique project in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Eligible tourism projects, various tourism projects which I already covered, all convention centers, wayside amenities, water sports, golf courses, wildlife safaris, luxury tourist trains, sea and river cruises. We have potential for all these projects, ecotourism centers, rural tourism products. And the scheme, we have various subsidies and incentives available. I'll quickly mention. We have investment subsidy of 20% capital investment subsidy. Then further, basing on the area, if it is in a remote area, rural area, an additional 5% is available. And then if it is a woman entrepreneur, to encourage the women entrepreneurs, we have another additional 5% incentive. To encourage the remote areas and backward communities, we have additional 5% for those kind of entrepreneurs also. And then we have various concessions like exemption of reimbursement of stamp duty, reimbursement of 24% reimbursement of registration stamp duty, 50% registration reimbursement for if it is a leased land. And then we have concessions of our sales tax, which is known as VAT, reimbursement of luxury tax for some period, 5 years period to encourage initially. And other exemptions like entertainment tax, municipal concessions, and then power concessions are also available as it is in the industrial policy. Reimbursement of luxury tax for some period, 5 years period to encourage initially. And other exemptions like entertainment tax, municipal concessions, and then power concessions are also available as it is in the industrial policy. Then we have additional benefit for the priority areas, like some of the areas are identified as priority areas, such as beaches, water bodies, Jalayagnim sites. Typically these are irrigation projects. These are known as Jalayagnim sites. Rural tourism locations, ecotourism locations, and adventure tourism locations. Basically, as a consultant, we can guide the investors, we can facilitate we can prepare your pre-feasibility reports, project reports. And then from government side, in fact, we are actually handling their bid process management for government of Andhra Pradesh. So these are all the, our roles in the government sector in facilitating the tourism projects. As I said, preparation of proposals, conceptualization, developing TORs, channelizing NRI investments, networking with the MNCs for strategic alliances, especially for the strategic technical partners, market assessment and feasibility studies, project feasibility studies and detailed project reports. And then for government, we are actually facilitating public-private partnership, projects, bid process management, evaluation of feasibility, your documentation, advising government departments on various project-related critical issues, client relations and client management, license services and public relations services. If you are setting up a project, in fact, we can undertake your license services also. Even if you are in UK, you can depend on us. We can take care of your approvals, clearances, everything. So these are the services which we offer as consultants. I thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to highlight the investor-friendly climate in Andhra Pradesh. I invite you all to come to Andhra Pradesh and then to set up your industries and tourism projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmi Narayana. The floor is open for questions.
On the whole framework, in terms of, you obviously got issues about capacity planning, not only in the business, but also the human resources and the training issues. Are you the organization that mediates for the government or act as consultants to the parties concerned?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are covering all the integrated services related to the project, including the HR and training requirements. Of course, we are having strategic alliances for extending these HR and training services. So, we are open to, in fact, tying up with the international partners also.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan. Next we have Mr. Rajendra Kumar of UK Tamil Nadu Chamber of Commerce, who will present the business opportunities in Tamil Nadu. The UK Tamil Nadu Chamber of Commerce, led by Mr. Jakkar Ravi Balan, Ramesh Shiv and others, have been working tirelessly in creating opportunities for businesses in UK and Tamil Nadu. We have split the presentation into two parts. Mr. Dr. Rajendra will speak for 15 minutes and then we'll have Professor Reddy speaking for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Honorable MV Virendra Sharmaji, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I have great pleasure in welcoming all of you for this presentation on investment opportunities in Tamil Nadu and India. Why India? India went in for liberalization, privatization, globalization in 1991, and if you look at today, India is the fastest developing economy. We said by 2030, India will be the third largest economy in the whole world. So everybody wants to get into India. BRICS, as we call, yeah? And if you look at, it's got a very liberal foreign investment regime. It's the largest democracy in the whole world. Skilled and competitive labor force. It's a large domestic market. Somebody gets into the market, they can sell, and return on investment is very, very high. FDI equity inflow is $187.9 billion US. Exports is 794 billion as of 2012. 20 to 30 million people joining India's middle class. It stands at around 150 million people with purchasing power parity. Next is why Tamil Nadu? I hope you are aware it's the 11th largest state in India and it's the most favored destination in terms of foreign direct investment. It is Asia's best region in 2006 according to FT report. It's the best among Indian states for investment. Highly skilled technical manpower in the whole world. 100,000 engineering graduates coming out every year. FDI equity inflows stands at $10 billion US. Wage cost is cheaper than China and it is 70 to 80% cheaper than Europe. You have all the reasons why you should get into Tamil Nadu. Lowest attrition rate, highest employee loyalty, and literacy rate is around 80.3%. Now, interestingly, Dr. J. Jayalalitha, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, has got Vision 2023 for Tamil Nadu. And she wants Tamil Nadu to be number one. And she is working towards that. And she has identified some sectors like energy, transport, industrial and commercial, urban infrastructure, agriculture, and human development. Let's go. If you look at the indicators, the literacy rate in India is 74 average, but in Tamil Nadu it's 80%. Work rate is lower. Investment is 187.9 in India, 10 billion is for Tamil Nadu. And outstanding investment as of today is $721.6 billion US. That's the potential. And as of the small public-private partnership infrastructure is 52, special economic zone is 53. Energy is one sector where there are lots of power projects, mega power projects, solar projects, wind power projects, LNG terminal and gas grid. For all these, they need investment. And if you look at the investment cost, the total is $52.9 billion. That is what we expect in this particular sector. If you look at the next sector, which is
transport, you will see they want to build greenfield airport, they want to upgrade the existing airports, they want to build expressways, highway improvement, new ports development, high-speed passenger link, freight corridor, metro and monorail. And for this project, it's $44.7 billion US. And if you look at infrastructure, the population is growing, and they're looking at infrastructure projects in terms of building lots of expressways like Sriperumbudur, Madurai, Thoothukudi, Chennai, Ranipet, Hosur, Coimbatore, Salem, Chennai, Trichy, Coimbatore, Madurai, industrial townships, aerospace park, and for this they need $17.64 billion US. Sorry, it's not dollars, it's pounds. Yeah? Sorry about that. Urban infrastructure, Chennai city development, for developing Chennai city, for urban development, for building 10 world-class cities in Tamil Nadu, and building housing for economically weaker sections, they're looking at 32 billion pounds. Agricultural projects, cleaning of wells, tanks, canals, horticultural parks, micro-irrigation, drainage storage models, agricultural universities building, food processing centers, wholesale projects, support to mechanization, facility for agro, it's 4.7 billion pounds. Healthcare sector is one, where they want to create 2 medical cities, they want to build new private medical colleges, they want to upgrade existing hospitals, they want to upgrade existing colleges, quality improvement, building specialty centers, skill development, disaster management services, and 1,000 collections laboratories and electronic database. And if you look at education, people like to go to schools, colleges, and they're upgrading schools, around 5,000. Skills development for vocational training is 11,000. They want to build centers of excellence. If you look at Chennai, I hope all of you are aware, Chennai is supposed to be the emerging market in terms of Southeast Asia and South African markets. It's got 35% of market share as far as automobile industry is concerned. If you look at big names like Hyundai, Ford, all are there. Yeah? If you look at IT, you'll see this that it has increased from 3 billion to 9.26 billion in 2010-2011, and that's the compound annual growth rate of close to 25%. If you look at textile industry, Tamil Nadu is known as the spinning. I don't know whether you're aware that it's got 2 major cities, Tirupur and Erode, which is supposed to be known as the knitwear capital of India. It's got 46% of the spinning as far as cotton is concerned. This is the total investment Tamil Nadu government is seeking in terms of infrastructure. Energy is 52 billion pounds, transport is 44 billion pounds, industrial and commercial is 17 billion, urban infrastructure is 32 billion, agriculture is 4.7 billion, human development which involves health and education is 3.5 billion, general and social infrastructure projects is 11.7 billion, and capital improvement to existing infrastructure is 8 billion. Total, they are looking at 176.47. Yeah. What are the key opportunities for UK firms? If you look at UK is advanced in terms of automotive, advanced engineering, construction infrastructure, consumer design, education and training, environment, fashion, financial and legal, food and drink, healthcare and e-health, ICT, legal, life sciences, sports and leisure, power and energy, security, water and whatnot. If you look at trade between UK and India, the British Prime Minister David Cameron, during his recent visit to India, Feb 2013, he made it a point to make an announcement that he wants to double the trade with India by 2015 to 24 billion pounds. And India's main exports to UK are cotton, ready-made garments, textiles, transport, equipment, spices, ore, minerals, manufacturers, metals, machinery, instruments, drugs and pharmaceuticals, marine products. The main imports from the UK to India are amplifiers, ores, metal scraps, pearls, precious stones, professional instruments other than electronics, non-ferrous, chemicals and machinery. The UK is the largest market in Europe for Indian IT services. India is the 21st largest exporter to India and ranks at 8th position as far as imports from India are concerned. In terms of total trade, UK ranks 16th worldwide. Which are the major UK firms which have a major presence in India? UK is the third largest investor in India. Yeah? UK Holding, HSBC Bank, Castrol, Ecom Communications, HOC Group Limited, Standard Chartered Bank, ENI Holdings, JP Morgan, Capital Private Limited, Allergen, Scottish and Newcastle Limited, BP PLC. Which are the major Indian investors in the UK? If you look at Tata Group, Tata went in for acquisition of Forest Steel, Tata bought Land Rover, Tata bought Jaguar, Tata bought Tetley. Tata is the largest private sector employer in the UK. You have ICICI Bank Limited, United Spirits Limited, Bennett Coal and Company Limited, Saslan Energy Limited, HCL Technologies Limited, Havel Engines Limited, Sahara India, Hindalco Industries Limited, SI Energy, Century Communications, Reliance Group, India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited, State Bank of India, and 3i Infotech Limited. What are the investment opportunities for Indian firms in the UK? UK is good in terms of ICT, organic and plastic, electronics, displays, photonics, telecommunication. It is a $65 billion industry. And you look at it's got 250,000 employees with 7,800 companies involved. Software and IT services. It is Europe's leading investment market. It is home to 10,000 specialist software houses. It's got 10% of UK GDP. Life sciences. You all know UK is advanced in terms of science and technology, biotechnology, healthcare, pharmaceutical industries. 23 billion pounds a year in revenue. Renewable energy. You've got 500 billion worth of wind turbines. You've got established 300 million worth of wind farm in Glasgow by Scottish Power. Creative industries. 4.5% of UK growth. 7.3 GDA. Over 120,000 creative businesses. You all know, UK is very famous for games industry. It's the third largest market in the whole world, with over 150 games development studios in the UK. In the music industry, you realize it's worth 5 billion pounds a year, export value of 1.3 billion pounds. And in terms of design, I'm sure you all have iPhone. The iPhone was actually designed in the UK. The interior launch of Airbus A380 was done by over people here in the UK. And they've got 185,000 employees, EADS. And it's got 4,000 consultancies. These are some of the major foreign investors in Tamil Nadu. If you look at it, they're all invested, they've all got return on investment, they're very happy. And once again, I take this opportunity to thank UK Tamil Nadu Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. We'll have a talk by Professor Reddy and after that have a session for questions.
Mr. Chairman, Virendra Sharma-ji, and friends, I already began my talk. I'm going to focus more on the potential of medical tourism in Tamil Nadu, India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. Honourable members, next, keep going fast. Finish it, 2 minutes. Next. Chairman of the Irish College of Surgeons, Indian chapter chairman. Next. Southern states, especially Tamil Nadu, is a glorious state of temples, rich cultural heritage, tourist attraction with an annual growth of 15%. Recently, a new dimension has been added. Next. That is the medical tourism or wellness tourism. Next. Next. Expertise in infrastructure, many of the hospitals are on par with any developed countries. Services are offered at a fraction of the cost compared to many other countries. Next. Mostly come from Southeast Asia, West Asia, Africa, to some extent from UK and USA, not many. Next 2 years, medical tourism is set to become 2 billion industry in India. Next. Why? What is the reason for the influx of patients to India? The skill and expertise of Indian doctors have been acknowledged globally. As I mentioned already, there is no major hospital in the world without Indian doctors. About 14% of all the medical specialists in USA are Indians. World-class hospitals with JCI, ISO approved hospitals. Next. Reversal of brain drain has been taking place in the last 10 years, with a lot of doctors trained abroad are returning to India, which was not the case earlier. Minimum waiting time for consultation, in most of these countries like UK or in USA, even to see a dentist you have to wait for 6 months, whereas there it is not necessary. Within a day or two you can see a senior consultant. Highly cost effective, even if the travel expenses are added. Very hospitable and conducive society. Liberal economic policies of the government, this is very important. India is one of the few countries offering exclusive medical visa, M and MX. MX for the attendant. 2 people can come for stay for 1 year. Extensible if there is a medical certificate. This is a facility given. Very few countries have given this facility. And the world's largest pharmaceutical industry in India, exporting raw material to over 200 countries in the world. Attraction of general tourism. Next. Insurance companies, this is another new phenomenon. Earlier, the insurance companies were not covering, suppose somebody coming from UK is insured here, they were not covering the treatment given in India, but now they have made up their mind because that is becoming cheaper for them. So most of the Western countries are now allowing their patients to go to India. The insurance coverage is given to them. This is a very new dimension that has been come recently. Alternate system, particularly our friends from Kerala, lot of alternate systems have come, and the hub is Kerala for most of these natural remedies. Next. Medical education is another thing. These are all the various alternate systems that have been developed in South India mostly. Next. This is Mahabalipuram. You see the entire chariot is made of single stone. That's how they did this sculpturing from several thousands of years back. Next. Just to give a comparison, take for example cardiac surgery. In India it costs about $4,000, whereas in Western countries it's going to cost $40,000. This is the ratio. Just to give you an example, liver transplant, bone transplant, orthopedics, kidney transplant, same ratio applies everywhere. Next. Advantage of promoting this is you skip some of this. Next. Next. This is Madurai Meenakshi temple. Next. Other countries actually promoting medical tourism. Some of these countries, most of these countries they have special departments to promote medical tourism. Next. South Africa specializes in what is called safari tourism. They take you on animals, they show you around. Next. India's national health policy is another thing. They have considered treating patients from abroad as export, and all the fiscal incentives have been given to those earnings made by treating foreign patients. Next. Other areas where India has enormous potential is medical education, medical colleges, laboratory imaging sciences, and pharma industry. Next. Establishing we now calculate that nearly equal number of medical colleges are required. The number is about 270 or so now. We require another 270 medical colleges to require the demand of the medical profession. Dental, paramedical courses. There is a great potential for investment in some of these areas, and the government is giving all facilities to establish these centers. Next. Next, I think we'll skip this, so this is not important. Next. Some agencies have come in India recently to provide information to those who seek medical help in India. They give 24 hours reply. Whatever information you want. Suppose you want to come for a knee transplant, they will give you what are the various hospitals providing the service, what is the cost, what is the tariff structure, how long you need to stay, that kind of information. There are agencies that have come up now to give all this information. You can go on the website and get all these waivers. Next. 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 Some of these areas we have now, I'm a member of the core committee to promote medical tourism in the state. We have instructed all the hospitals to develop these areas. General tidiness, environmental hygiene, appointment system, front office management, communicative skills, transparency. Next. Adequately informed consent or refusal, expedient diagnosis, alternate systems, medical documentation, e-correspondence, cashless credit card service, indemnity stamp. Now there are few areas that require consent. Next. Next please. The health insurance coverage, some of these countries they don't cover if you do daycare surgery. You have to admit for a few days, then only they cover. This is something new. We need to influence these insurance companies because the trend is towards daycare, minimally invasive procedures. Then the regulatory bodies in India. Next slide, please. The Parliament is now enacting a new law to regulate all the medical establishments in the state country. If that comes through, definitely the quality will be more standardized. Next. Much awaited legislation by the Indian Parliament. I think any time it is coming through. The already draft is ready. That will definitely improve the health delivery system. Next. Next. Thank you. Winds are always favor the efficient sailor. I think we'll close. Thank you. We are running. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll start the afternoon session from Siddharth Raja. This session is aimed at UK businesses who are interested to enter the Indian market. Siddharth is the founder partner of a premier law firm in Bangalore called Samvad Partners. Siddharth.
I guess while the presentation is being set up, I don't know if it's a good idea, sir, to have a lawyer speak right after lunch. But, Mr. Sharma, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here, especially in this very august premises. And in this particular room, I don't know how many of you have noticed that very poignant painting at the back there of King George V overlooking the unknown soldier. So I think, and if you just look at that, the expressions on their faces, I think it's a very nice painting. But talking of lawyers, and after lunch, I mean, before we just get moving on, can you put that on? There's a story told that when Lord Mountbatten was made the last Viceroy of India, he invited Mahatma Gandhi for a tea at Viceregal Palace. And they were chatting and, to make some conversation, the Viceroy said, Mr. Gandhi, I believe, just like Mr. Nehru, you were also trained as a barrister in London. He said, yes, many years before Mr. Nehru, and for that matter, so was Jinnah, and so was Sardar Patel. So he says, Mr. Viceroy, do you see, Your Excellency, do you see what you're up against? And the Viceroy said, what? He said, you're up against a battery of London-trained Indian lawyers. So with that, let me begin. My session today is on entering into and doing business in India, an overview of the Indian legal framework from an overseas perspective. I guess some of this has already been covered in the previous presentations as to why invest in India. I'd only like to point out two things from that slide. And one is a positive point and one is a negative one. The positive one is that there is now an increasing number of sectors open to foreign direct investment in India. But I think it comes unfortunately at a time when this statistic also stands out, and that is the average growth rate has dropped. Not completely as in the West, but to some significant extent from previous years. So that's the high and the low. And I think there are clearly imperatives that many people do consider for investing in India. Next slide, please. And I don't want to sound too grim, but to my mind, the Indian opportunity is to some extent under threat. And while the story is largely intact, it has been battered of late. It's good because in relative terms to the West and certain other developing nations, it's still a good one. But I think the overall general experience that we as lawyers have had in India, and this is I think to some extent across the board, felt it hasn't unfortunately become much easier for overseas players to do business in India. In fact, in some respects, it's become worse. To give you one statistic on this, the World Bank does an annual survey of the ease with which companies from overseas can set up businesses in the 185 countries in the world. It's a well-known survey, it's been going for the last 25 years. And unfortunately, in the last few years, India's position has slipped downwards. I think that is to be borne in mind. There are several factors for it, and I will deal with that, and I think that's important for when companies consider entering into India, factors to be considered. Next, please. From a legal perspective, essential. Foreign direct investment policy has essentially moved into what we call the automatic approval route, which is that approvals are not required prior to the investments, only reporting requirements are maintained. So if a sector is listed in the foreign direct investment policy and up to a certain sectoral limit, then FDI or foreign direct investment is permitted without prior approval up to that limit, and if no limit is specified, then it is 100%. And investments are permitted essentially into equity shares, fully or mandatorily convertible debentures, or fully compulsory and mandatorily convertible preference shares. There are some restricted sectors of government route where you need to get approval of the Foreign Investment Promotion Board, which is the centralized body of the Ministry of Finance, which meets about once in about a month or so to take up various applications which are received for it under the government route. Now, I've chosen to highlight one particular one, which is the very hotly debated issue of multi-brand retail trading, which is now open for FDI in 11 states in India, which are subject to some, and this is an example of government route, where a number of conditions have to be satisfied before approvals can be granted. For instance, a minimum foreign inflow of $100 million, 50% of the foreign direct investment has to be invested in fresh back-end infrastructure. Now, all these are terms of some interpretation. Retail outlets can only be established in certain types of cities. 30% of the procurement of the manufactured goods for foreign retailers in India has to be procured from Indian small-scale industries. Now, that's a big one, because it means effectively the supply chain management has to become 30% Indian. So that's causing some angst amongst foreign investors. And the states, you must not forget that India is a federal democracy, so things like retail trade and aspects relating to land, for example, are all state subject. So the 28 states of the Union of India have a right to prescribe rules for them, even though the central government may take a particular policy perspective. And interestingly, or well, negatively in many respects, foreign direct investment in the e-commerce sector, in retail trade e-commerce, whether single brand, multi-brand, whatever, remains prohibited. And in fact, if I could just digress a little bit here, while the government of India, just before we go back to what we said, while the government of India has sought to open up certain multi-brand, for example, multi-brand retailing, the consequence has been that they've come down pretty hard on e-commerce. Now, foreign investors have come up with innovative structures by which to invest into e-commerce, not directly, but into the back end. The Indian version of Amazon is a company called Flipkart, which has been served legal notice by the Enforcement Directorate to explain the structure of its investment. So a lot of foreign investors are now actually getting scared that while there has been a liberalization on the multi-brand side, there's been a bit of a crackdown when it comes to this, which is prohibited. Next slide. And there are certain absolutely prohibited sectors where no investment is permissible, and a lot of it, is socially relevant, like betting and gambling, including casinos. Now, that has an impact on some of the real estate investment in India, and specifically, like down here, atomic energy and certain other sectors. One of the previous speakers was talking about the energy generation activities in the southern states, but surprisingly there was no mention, I mean, of atomic energy, because that's really causing some issues, as you know, in Tamil Nadu in particular. There are from what you typically expect in, say, the UK is invested. Repatriation of dividends is not for the wholly owned subsidiaries, whether it be a combination of things. Now, India has recently, when I say recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, interest because it provides another means. Again, I mean, there are detailed regulations in place, and I think it's because well, where it was a foreign overseas education player. I just got to mention government entity of which this education institution is a part to want to find out Canadian government certifications. A couple of employment-related issues. I think this is again relevant for overseas investors. Indian labor laws are, they're stuck in the 19th century. And no one's ever required government approvals, and you need to pay retrenchment, a huge retrenchment compensation, and of course there are the labor unions to be dealt with. Pure employee agreements, and I'll just pick this as an example, are not enforceable because they would be in restraint of trade. Now, and that is actually specifically written into many of these principles, which are English common law principles, find place in India in the actual statute books. And the Indian Contract Act, for example, is a legislation dating back to the administration chose to use the statute in India as a grounds to test modifying law in India. Specifically doing, even though the statute law has deviated from the common law, for over the deviation in the statute would be court stepping in next week. The other big issue is dispute resolution. Resort to arbitration is generally perceived to be expeditious and cost effective, except of course if you're dealing with an Indian court. The scope to intervene very much in an international arbitral tribunal, in the process of the arbitration, and then in the enforcement of the award. Some of the jurisdiction that it had lost for foreign investors, which means that, you know, you can actually incorporate provisions, dispute provisions into your clause, which talks about Singapore International Arbitration Centre. And interestingly, the London Court of International Arbitration now has a domestic office in arbitrations, actually, under Indian law, using the resources of the London Court of International Arbitration. The SIC it sometimes is beneficial. Thankfully, the international commercial arbitration space has become easier. And this is my last slide. The liberalization that we have seen in 20 years, in the last 3 years, in my opinion, has suffered what I call regulatory backlash. The regulator has been reduced. He therefore now is trying to exercise as much power as possible to pull back. It's a classic case of fight between the executive and the bureaucracy on the one hand, the executive responsibility, and all the legislative changes that have occurred. So it's that which is causing the issue today. And of course in England, the single most important reflection of that fact of regulatory backlash is what has happened with Vodafone when it comes to its tax claims that it has suffered in India. And that is a clear case of a tax regulator saying, I want to exercise jurisdiction over this matter, I believe it is subject to Indian tax, even though the transaction has occurred entirely outside of India. And despite the Supreme Court agreeing with Vodafone, the government has said no, we will try and tax it. And as you know, today the situation is that Vodafone and the government of India is in a voluntary conciliation attempt, because essentially both Vodafone in particular has said, I'm going to spend at least a decade in India litigating. It's going to cost too much. I might as well agree to pay some tax. Let's resolve it with the Indian government and move on. That's an example, if you ask me, of regulatory backlash. I sincerely hope that this is not going to it's going to reduce. And I think it's forums like this that are important to convey externally from an overseas perspective to the Indian government and Indian regulators that it does India's image no good to have things like this, where there is the problem is there is uncertainty in terms of enforcement of Indian law. And that's a huge, huge deterrent to business in India. You always take the view, in most of the comparisons drawn with China, where they say that regulatory certainty exists. I think that is overstated in some cases, but the fact that there is certainty of enforcement and there is a timely ability to reach a decision in a timely manner, that has a huge impact on making Indian business attractive. Okay? There has been a tightening of regulations. I talk about the delays in courts to some extent offset by arbitration. So I think I'll end by saying that, the second slide that I had is that the India story is still intact. And it is intact in my view. And I don't know if I'm going to face some criticism for it. It's intact in my view despite the Indian government. Not because of, it's despite the Indian government. Because the inherent entrepreneurial spirit of the Indian the economy and the drive that exists in the 20 years that we've seen liberalization has unleashed something which now I think government is, in some cases, justifiably perhaps you might argue to try and increase tax revenue because tax revenues have dropped. So it's a tussle which every growing economy goes through. But if you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10 where India ranks in terms of its apart from its obvious advantages of markets and all the rest that we heard, I think we're probably somewhere in the middle at the moment. Not much needs to be done, and I think if external pressure is brought, in the sense that if forums like this and overseas perspectives come in to say you need to do more to let Indian business be on its own. Promotion policy is all well and good to promote. The best promotion policy for Indian business is back off to the best extent that the government can do. Back off. I'd end with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. You can take a question, one question. Any questions are?
Sorry, ma'am? I think it's been done. Several industry bodies, I'll give you an example. Last year, actually the previous budget, there was an attempt to regulate the venture capital industry by saying that if there was a transaction over a certain threshold, and the fair value was at that threshold, any increased consideration beyond the threshold limit would be deemed income in the hands of the company. And that meant that small startups who were looking at a good, they were getting good valuations from the investors, meant that they had to suffer for having been good. The Indian Venture Capital Association in Delhi actually mounted a serious, memorandum to the government of India. We also participated in that because it didn't make sense. Thankfully, that has been, it hasn't, see, the thing is the Indian government works, I guess any government works in different ways. They said they had made the proposal so they couldn't withdraw it. So it's been put out to the back burner, but it helped. I think Vodafone example is the best example where it's external pressure, it's not internal. The Venture Capital Association is a domestic agent. If an external body comes up and says, this is not helping you internationally and you're going to lose out because it's competition. If you're going to adopt a non-friendly approach, then business will move from India to the Philippines. We talk about our great English-educated workforce. Let's not forget the Philippines, for example, has also an equally good English-educated workforce. And numbers, they're more cost effective. So I think externally it helps because it then sends a message to the government of India that it's actually, the image of the country's openness to doing business is under threat. I think that's a greater. Well, that's because it took a while, because the Vodafone conciliation matter has just been approved. The finance minister, Mr. Chidambaram, he's been pushing for it, and I think it's a good move because it reflects the fact that both parties are willing to negotiate. The Indian government stand on that was pretty strong, saying China has done this in the past. Well, for that matter, even the UK has done this, where it has effectively taxed transactions which are overseas. The US has done it, so what's wrong? We're trying to get some part of the tax revenue into the country. So there's a basis for it. And I think Vodafone realized that, so instead of litigating and continuing to litigate, it's willing to settle, which is a good thing, isn't it? So there's bound to be some mediated settlement. Let's hope it works.
Thank you, Siddharth.